Hi, Andreas from Toddle here, and today I want to show you how to build a blog using Toddle and Contentful. So if you're not familiar with Contentful, it's a very popular blogging slash sort of headless CMS backend. It allows you to organize a lot of your website's content and it gives you a ton of freedom. So it's really great for building with Toddle. That gives you a ton of freedom on the front end. And today we're going to be building a simple blog. First, we're going to be building a front page where you can see the latest post, and then we'll follow up with a video on how we build the individual blogging pages. And I reckon we're going to add a few more videos to the series showing how to style and sort of build out this. And when we're done, we're going to release this as a template that you can start from when you're building your own site in Toddle. So let's get into it. I'm going to start in Contentful, because the first thing we need to do is set up our content model. So in Contentful, you start by defining what the data you want to fetch, your content data should look like, kind of the form it should have. So we're going to create a new content type. I already have a few because we actually use the same account for our docs, Toddle docs, and I'll show you that also in a later video. But let's add a new content type, and I'm going to call this a blog post. Post for the Toddle blog. Let's go and create that one. Then we're going to add a field. The first thing I want to add is a text field, and we're going to call it slug. And configure that. And I think we actually can set this as a slug appearance. And so a slug, if you're not familiar, is like a unique identifier that's human readable for a blog post. We're going to say that's unique and required. So these are all sort of validation things you can specify for your content model in Contentful. I think that's fine. We can also change it later. I'm on top of the confirm button. That's why. I'm just going to move myself over to the other side then. So that added a slug. We also want another one. Text, we'll call it title. Like that. Just going to change this one to be uppercase. There we go. I think we're going to add a summary, which is also going to be a short text. We don't want too much. So that's up to 256. That's absolutely fine. And then the last, I think let's add a media, which is going to be a header image like that. Yeah, great. One file. That's perfect. So we sort of have something to represent this. Right. And the final thing we want to add is actually our content. And for content, we're going to add rich text and call it content. Actually, I think we'll call it content. Right. And this has what kind of data do you accept inside your content, and we want all of it, so that's all fine. Right, so now we've actually created our structure. So what this means is that every blog post we create is going to have a slug, it's going to have a title, it's going to have a summary, a header image, and content. And let's save that. So now that we've created our content model, we can go and create our first content. So we're going to go and create one blog post here, and then we'll go and see how we can fetch that in Toddle, and then work from there. So we're going to change the content type here to blog post. We don't have any, so we're going to go and add an entry, and we're going to call it blog post. And since we are eventually going to move our Toddle blog over to Contentful as well, it's currently just coded in Toddle. So I think we'll actually just steal stuff from our Toddle .dev blog. Right. So actually, let's just go and grab the very first example. Let's open this image in a new tab. That's fine with me. I'm going to grab that one. And then we are going to go and start by, actually, let's just download this one. Right. yeah, we're gonna go and add new media, open file selector, and then let's go and select a file to upload. And we're gonna call it. We don't need to call that anything. Right, so we've got our header image. What do we call this blog? We called it caching best practices. We're gonna move that in there, grabbing our title as well, summary. Yeah, I mean, we'll just steal this one, I think. That was perfectly fine. And then we have our content. And I'm just going to grab a little bit of stuff here. We're not going to move all of it over now. Right. That should be okay, right? So we've now created our first blog post. We can publish that. And we can fill out the content. I'm going to do that later when I'm not on camera. So we've got all this content set up, and now we need to sort of bring that in, build the front end of our blog in Toddle. So I've already loaded up a project here. This is just based on the blank template, and it's got a title I've changed to Toddle blog and a subtitle on it. And again, in a later video, we're going to come along and restyle this to match what we actually want our blog to look like, right? But the first thing I need to do here is I want on this page, this is the home page for the blog. So I want to list all the, let's say 10 latest posts. There's only going to be one for now, but that's the idea. So the first thing I need to do is add a new API, because I need to fetch this data from Contentful. So I'm going to add a new API. I'm going to call it posts. And of course, it defaults to our little weather API here. So the URL I need to post in here is something I need to get from Contentful. So I'm going to open up docs inside Contentful, and then our content delivery API. And for there, I need to get entries collection. But actually, I specifically want to add some search parameters here. So we're going to go down to the bit that calls search parameters. And this one says content type. So if I open this up, this is an example of how to fetch all the entries of a specific content type. And in our case, the content type we're looking for is the blog post, right? So I'm going to copy this URL here, like this. And then I'm going to go into Toddle and I'm going to paste it in here. And you'll notice that that didn't really seem to work at all, because it's got all these placeholders in here. I'm not quite sure why we don't get... they're not pre-filled since we're logged in, but we're going to need to do that ourselves. So the first one is called a space ID. We can grab that. If we close this one, we can grab that straight out of our URL here. That's pretty easy. Environments is called master by default, unless you've changed it to something else in Contentful. Then we need the access token. We can get that by going to settings, API keys, and then I'm going to create a new one, API key called toddle blog. And then I'm going to grab this content delivery key, copy that one, and just save this one. And we're going to paste that in here where it says access token. And the last thing we need is content type. And it says here, you can see the error message we get back now is, now that we authenticated and done everything else right, we're getting back a content type ID is required when querying indices involving fields. Yeah. Okay, so we need to get this content type. And that is not actually just the name blog post. It is the ID of that content model. And you can get that by going in and selecting blog post, and then there's a little button here to copy your ID. And then we just post that in here. There we go. So now we can see, now we're starting to get proper data back, and we're getting a lot of stuff from the content API. We got some information here about what kind of system type it is. It's an array. That's pretty good. How many items? 1. It says skip 0 and limit 100. That means it's showing, skip 0 means it's showing the first result gets back, and the maximum amount of result it would return is 100. We only have 1. We only created 1, so we're only getting 1. And then here we're getting the items, which is the actual blog items. So we can see as we dive into this data, there's some metadata, there's some system, which is, suppose also metadata. And then there's the different fields, right? And here we can see the fields we defined. We said there's slug, the title, summary, header image, and then content, right? So this gives us everything we need. We also have these includes if you're inside your rich text, including different kinds of assets and images and stuff. Some of the information are listed here, but I'll show that later on when we need that. For now, this is kind of all we need inside this field. So we're going to press done. And now I want to show all these blog posts on our home screen, right? So I'm going to start by adding in a new main element, sort of capture the main part of our page. And then we're going to add we have this prefabricated card style that I think I'm going to use for my my articles, right? So for this, I'm going to start by repeating this element. So repeating means you essentially duplicate this element for every item in an array you have. And in this case, I'm going to repeat it, and I'm going to choose the posts, data, items. And now there's only one item in this array. You can see you only have the first one. So it's not going to look any different right now. We're not going to see the difference. But what this means is as we add multiple posts, we're going to repeat this element for every single post we have. And the neat thing about this is that inside this element, this section now, I have access to the specific data for that item that I just repeated over. So I can choose the text inside the heading and then use a formula here to specify that. And now I have this repeat item that references the specific item we're repeating over right now. I can choose that and then fields and title. And now that actually becomes the title here that I'm showing. So now in this case, I don't want this card to have a fixed height. Oops, there we are. So I'm just going to remove that because it should just kind of flow and follow the size. I can do the same for the text paragraph here. I can go and grab the item fields summary, right? So it's getting a little bit big. Let's just go and say 100%. That might be a bit much. Let's go 900. Still a bit aggressive, but that's okay. For the image, we can kind of do the same thing. Right now, it's a bit stretched. We'll fix that afterwards. But we can go and set the attribute and source. So that says where should we fetch this image from. And we can also use a formula here to say the item and then fields and then header image and then sys and then right. So this is sort of what we talked about, the includes in the includes inside of the response data. So in Contentful, this header image field doesn't actually tell us where the item is. So we kind of have to go and find it. So we actually have to go back to our data, our post data, and then we'll find the includes, then our assets. And then, since there's only one, we kind of know this is the one. But in other cases with different blogs, we might actually have more assets. So we need to do it properly, if you will. So I'm going to go and run a find. So find here is a formula in toddle. And what it does is it takes an array as an input. And then on the outside, it spits out the first element where this second argument is true. So it's going to try and evaluate this second argument for every single item in the array. And then the first time that's true, it's going to spit it out as the output. So in this case, the item in my assets is going to have a sys and an ID. And when that is equal to the repeat item sys ID, then we should get an output. Includes assets. Yeah. Assets, find item sys ID. No, that's because I'm saying item. That's not right. That's the blog post item. It's the fields header images ID. Yes, that was not the most trivial. So this is the reason why we need to do this, because this is how Contentful have structured their content. It's kind of optimized for quite a large delivery, and there's some times where that means maybe for simpler things it's not as trivial as it could have been, right? But as we can see, the output of this formula is that we now have this data right here with some fields on the asset, which is what the header image is. It's got a file and a URL. So we can then go here and say what we want to get. We want to get find, and then we want to get. So get lets us extract data out from an object. In this case, we're going to use an array. That means we can sort of go deep and get multiple levels. So the first thing we want to get is this fields. So I'm going to write fields. And the next level we need to get is file. So I'm going to add another one, file. And finally, we can then get the URL here as the third one, URL. Right, there we are. And so now the header image is actually being displayed as the right one, right? So this is a slightly more complex formula, but essentially what we're doing is saying we have in this includes dataset coming back from the server, a list of all the assets that are being used by this particular blog post. And we want to find the one where its ID matches the one of our header image. Or put another way, find the asset for my header image, right? And then that is a bunch of data. And what we want to get from that very specifically is the URL for that image. And we use this get formula here to drill down through the data of fields, files, to finally get to the URL that returns this information. And when we plop that URL inside our source here for an image, that image will actually load the right content, right? Let's just fix the styling here. We have an image. I don't want you to have a specified height. Ooh, maybe I do kind of want that. Let's just set that to 160 again. And I'm just going to add a little property. I don't think we have this supported yet, so we'll go and add it here, object fit cover. What that does is saying it's okay if you can't fill the whole space I've allocated for you because I set the height a bit low. Just cover as much as you can. And that means we're not going to get a stretch image, but we're actually going to get quite a nice sort of header image here, right? All good. I think the last thing we want to do is we want this to actually link to our new blog article, right? And we're going to do that by first of all changing it. We don't actually want it to be a button, but I do like the styling. So we're just going to go into attributes and change this to an A tag. So that basically says instead of being a button, it's just going to be a link. I'm going to change the text here to read, just read. And then we're going to add a href attribute. So this could all may seem a little bit weird if you're not familiar with HTML, but what we're doing here is really just editing the exact HTML elements that the browser understands. So the browser knows that if it sees a element, which is an anchor or hypertext link, it's going to look at this attribute href, and that's going to be where it takes you when you click the link. And in our case, we actually want this to be dynamic, right? Because it should be at our, I think we're going to concatenate here, and we're going to say /blog/ and then at the end here, we're going to add our item, fields, and then slug. So what that means is that this particular link is going to link to /blog/caching best practices. Hi. I hope you liked the video. We got more coming. So in the next video, we'll show you how to build the page for the individual blog post. And in the future videos, we'll add a bunch of new content. So if you like this one, please remember to subscribe so you'll get notified when the new one comes out. Thank you very much for watching.